The 7 levels of human power origins in Marvel explained. Level 1, Technology, Iron Man. Tony Stark represents the purest expression of technology-based heroism, a baseline human who achieved superhuman capability through genius-level engineering and unlimited resources. Created by Stan Lee, Larry Lieber, Don Heck, and Jack Kirby in Tales of Suspense number 39 in March 1963, Iron Man's origin shows Tony building the first crude armor in a cave using scraps to escape terrorists who kidnapped him. The arc reactor embedded in his chest initially served medical necessity, keeping shrapnel from reaching his heart, but evolved into the power source for increasingly sophisticated armor suits. Unlike heroes who stumbled into power through accidents or genetics, Tony deliberately engineered his abilities, refining them through constant innovation and iteration across hundreds of armor designs. The beauty of Tony's technology-based origin lies in its accessibility. Theoretically, anyone with sufficient intelligence, resources, and dedication could replicate his achievement. His armor grants flight, superhuman strength, energy projection, advanced sensors, and weaponry that rivals cosmic-level threats, yet remains fundamentally removable. Strip Tony of his armor and he returns to baseline humanity, unlike mutants or radiation-powered heroes whose abilities are permanently integrated. This vulnerability became central to his character during Armor Wars, when he systematically destroyed all technology based on his stolen designs, and during Extremis, when he integrated armor technology directly into his biology to eliminate the separation between man and machine. Tony's origin demonstrates that human ingenuity weaponized through technology can challenge gods, but also reveals the fragility of power dependent on maintaining, upgrading, and protecting equipment rather than inherent biological enhancement. Ant-Man. Hank Pym's discovery of size-altering Pym particles entails. To astonish number 27 in January 1962 created one of Marvel's most scientifically grounded technological power origins. Unlike Tony Stark's engineering approach, Pym's genius lay in subatomic physics, discovering particles that could manipulate the distance between atoms, allowing objects and people to shrink to ant size or grow to giant proportions. His original Ant-Man helmet facilitated communication with insects through cybernetic telepathy, demonstrating that technology could grant seemingly supernatural abilities through understanding natural systems. When Scott Lang stole the Ant-Man suit to save his daughter in Marvel Premiere number 47, the technology-based origin expanded beyond its creator, proving that technological powers could be transferred or stolen more easily than biological enhancements. The Pym particle origin reveals technology's greatest advantage and liability. It can be replicated, improved upon, or weaponized by others. Numerous heroes and villains have used Pym particles, from Yellow Jacket to Goliath to various size-changing criminals, because the technology itself represents the power rather than the individual. This contrasts sharply with radiation accidents or mutant genetics that typically affect only one person. Hank's multiple identity changes, Ant-Man, Giant Man, Goliath, Yellow Jacket, and later the Wasp, demonstrated that technology-based powers offer flexibility to reinvent capabilities and applications. However, Pym's mental instability and creation of Ultron showed that technological power origins carry psychological weight. Creating world-changing technology brings responsibility, guilt, and consequences that purely physical enhancements don't generate. The Ant-Man legacy proves that technology-based powers democratize heroism, but also democratize potential for catastrophic mistakes. Falcon. Sam Wilson's origin represents technology-based heroism at its most accessible, an ordinary man who became a superhero through advanced equipment rather than genius-level invention. Unlike Tony Stark, who built his own armor, or Hank Pym, who discovered revolutionary particles, Sam received his X-07 Falcon wingsuit through military service and later upgraded it with Stark technology and Wakandan enhancements. His origin shows that technology-based powers don't require being a super genius. They can be granted through service, loyalty, and demonstrated heroism. Sam's training as a para-rescue specialist gave him the skills to utilize advanced flight technology effectively, demonstrating that technological powers require competence and courage, even when the tech itself comes from external sources. The Falcon's power origin evolved significantly over publication history. His original connection to Red Wing emerged through the cosmic cube, granting him telepathic rapport with birds. Adding a superhuman element later retconned away to keep him purely technology-dependent. This editorial decision reinforced that Sam's heroism stems from his choices and skills rather than innate abilities. When Steve Rogers chose Sam to inherit the Captain America mantle, it created Marvel's first technology-based Captain America, someone who needed his wings to match the super soldier serum's physical enhancements. Unlike Bucky Barnes, who received serum enhancements, Sam remained baseline human, augmented solely through equipment, proving that technology could elevate ordinary humans to symbolic status, traditionally reserved for enhanced beings. Sam's origin demonstrates that technology-based power doesn't require wealth or genius when combined with military training, moral character, and willingness to risk everything for justice. Level 2, Radiation. Spider-Man, Peter Parker's transformation through radioactive spider bite in Amazing Fantasy number 15 in August 1962 established radiation as Marvel's most prolific origin source for superpowers. The story's elegant simplicity, teenager bitten by spider irradiated during science demonstration, wakes up with spider proportionate strength, wall crawling, danger sense, and agility, created the template for radiation-based origins across Marvel's universe. Unlike deliberate experiments like the super soldier serum, Peter's empowerment was pure accident, making his choice to become a hero rather than exploit his abilities the story's moral center. The radioactive spider represents science gone awry, granting power randomly rather than selectively, with Peter's responsibility defining whether that power serves good or evil. Spider-Man's radiation origin has been refined, but never fundamentally altered across reboots and reimaginings. The Ultimate Universe version replaced radioactive spider with genetically modified spider created by Oscorp, updating the science while maintaining the core concept. The Spider-Verse storyline revealed that across infinite realities, spider-based radiation exposure creates spider heroes, suggesting the radiation doesn't just grant random powers but specifically unlock something fundamental about spider-related abilities. Peter's powers evolved over decades, developing organic webbing temporarily during The Other, gaining additional powers during Spider Island, and even dying and resurrecting with enhanced abilities. However, radiation's fundamental characteristic remains. Once the transformation occurs, it's permanent and integrated at a cellular level. Unlike technology that can be removed or magic that can be dispelled, Peter can't stop being Spider-Man because the radioactive spider rewrote his DNA. His origin proves that radiation-based powers transform humans irreversibly, making heroism or villainy a permanent choice rather than temporary role. Hulk. Bruce Banner's exposure to gamma radiation during a bomb test in The Incredible Hulk #1 in May 1962 created Marvel's most tragic radiation origin, a man cursed with uncontrollable transformation into a rage monster. Unlike Peter Parker's empowerment through trace amounts of radiation, Bruce absorbed lethal doses of gamma rays that should have killed him instantly. His survival and transformation into the Hulk established that massive radiation exposure could rewrite human biology completely, creating a separate personality manifesting through stress and anger. The gamma bomb origin reflected Cold War nuclear anxieties, with Bruce representing the ultimate consequence of atomic age hubris, the scientist destroyed by his own creation. The Hulk's radiation-based powers operate differently than other Marvel heroes because the gamma transformation created a psychological split rather than simple enhancement. Bruce retained his human form and intellect but carried the Hulk within him, triggered by emotional distress. This dual nature explored whether gamma radiation created a new being or amplified suppressed aspects of Bruce's psyche. Various storylines depicted different Hulk personalities: the savage Green Hulk, the cunning Gray Hulk, the intelligent Professor Hulk, and the cosmic Worldbreaker, all emerging from the same radiation exposure but manifesting differently based on Bruce's mental state. Other gamma-powered beings like She-Hulk, Red Hulk, and Abomination demonstrated that gamma radiation didn't always create split personalities, suggesting Bruce's specific trauma combined with gamma exposure produced his unique curse. The Hulk proves that radiation-based origins can be as much curse as gift, creating powers inseparable from psychological damage and raising questions about whether enhanced humans remain truly human. Daredevil. Matt Murdock's origin through radioactive waste exposure in Daredevil #1 in April 1964 created Marvel's most nuanced radiation-based power set, blindness combined with enhanced remaining senses reaching superhuman levels. Young Matt pushed an old man from a truck's path, but was struck by a canister of radioactive material that splashed into his eyes. The radiation blinded him permanently but enhanced his hearing, touch, taste, and smell beyond human limits while granting a radar sense, allowing him to perceive his surroundings through sound wave interpretation. Unlike Spider-Man's clear physical enhancements or Hulk's transformation, Matt's radiation-granted powers came packaged with devastating disability, making his empowerment inseparable from profound loss. Daredevil's radiation origin raises complex questions about whether he's truly superhuman or merely compensating for blindness through enhanced remaining senses. His radar sense functions like sight but processes information differently, making Matt's perception alien to fully sighted individuals. Various writers explored whether Matt considers his powers a gift or curse. The radiation took his ability to see his father's face, perceive colors, or experience visual beauty, replacing sight with a world of sounds, scents, and radar impressions. Frank Miller's legendary run emphasized the sensory overload Matt experiences, with enhanced senses becoming liability when overwhelmed by noise or strong smells. The radioactive origin permanently altered Matt's neurology, making his enhanced senses as involuntary rather than controllable. He can't choose to stop hearing heartbeats or smelling blood. Unlike heroes who can remove armor or suppress mutations, Matt experiences enhanced sensory input constantly, making his radiation-based powers inseparable from his identity as both gift enabling his heroism and reminder of what the radiation took from him. Level 3 Mutates. Captain America. Steve Rogers' transformation through the Super Soldier Serum in Captain America, Comics #1 in March 1941, established the mutate origin, humans deliberately enhanced through scientific experimentation. Unlike radiation accidents that occur randomly, the Super Soldier Serum was designed specifically to create peak human specimens for military purposes. Dr. Abraham Erskine's formula combined chemical enhancement with Vita-ray radiation exposure, transforming scrawny Steve Rogers into the apex of human physical potential. The serum accelerated his metabolism, enhanced his muscular, increased bone density, and optimized his nervous system's efficiency, creating a human operating at theoretical maximum capacity without crossing into superhuman territory. The Captain America mutate origin carries different implications than accidental empowerment. Steve was chosen for enhancement, underwent the process willingly for patriotic duty, and received powers through deliberate scientific process rather than chance. The serum's destruction immediately after Steve's transformation, with Dr. Erskine's assassination by Hydra, made Captain America unique rather than the first of an army of super soldiers. This scarcity defined decades of storylines, with various factions attempting to recreate the formula, producing failures like Red Skull's imperfect serum or successes, like Isaiah Bradley's variant. The mutate origin allows for replication theoretically while practical obstacles prevent mass production, maintaining individual heroes' uniqueness. Steve's serum also proved permanent and irreversible. He can't depower himself, making his enhancement a lifelong commitment rather than temporary gift. The Super Soldier Serum represents science's attempt to perfect humanity through controlled mutation, contrasting sharply with radiation's random transformations or technology's removable enhancements. Red Skull. Johann Schmidt's transformation into the Red Skull through an imperfect super soldier serum demonstrates how mutate origins can create villains when applied to evil individuals. The Red Skull's origin was revised to include his injection with a flawed version of Erskine's formula by Nazi scientists desperate to create their own super soldier. Unlike Steve Rogers, whose pure heart made the serum amplify his goodness, Schmidt's sadistic nature was magnified by the enhancement, creating a monster whose physical capabilities matched Captain America while his morality remained absolutely evil. This origin established a crucial principle. Mutate formulas don't grant morality, but amplify existing character. The Red Skull's imperfect serum granted similar physical enhancements to Captain America, but with horrific side effects. It halted his aging inconsistently and eventually degraded his body, requiring him to transfer his consciousness into clone bodies or other hosts to survive. This instability separated flawed mutate origins from perfected versions, showing that rushed scientific enhancement produces powers with terrible costs. Various storylines explored his desperate attempts to obtain Steve's perfect serum, or achieve permanent stable enhancement driven by envy of his enemy's superior mutation. The character demonstrates that mutate origins can be weaponized by villains, but imperfect replication creates flawed results. Schmidt's transformation proves that deliberate enhancement through science requires not just the formula, but the right subject. Sentry. Robert Reynolds' origin through a mysterious golden serum represents the most powerful mutate transformation in Marvel, a super soldier formula thousands of times more potent than Captain America's serum. The Sentry's powers emerged when troubled teenager Robert ingested a formula created by a Canadian scientist attempting to replicate Erskine's work. Instead of peak human enhancement, the golden serum granted cosmic-level abilities, strength rivaling Thor, flight, energy manipulation, and near invulnerability. However, the formula also created the Void, a dark alter ego representing Robert's suppressed negative emotions manifested as reality-warping evil entity. This duality established that overpowered mutate formulas risk creating psychological fractures alongside physical enhancement. The Sentry's origin deliberately obscured its details, with reality-warping effects making his true history uncertain. The original Sentry limited series presented Robert as forgotten hero whose existence had been erased from collective memory. Subsequent stories revealed the golden serum's unstable nature. It granted godlike power but required reality manipulation to contain the Void, leading Robert to make the world forget him. Unlike stable mutates like Captain America, whose enhancement integrated smoothly, the Sentry's transformation was too powerful for human psychology to handle, causing mental breakdown. His inclusion in the Avengers demonstrated that even unbalanced mutates could function as heroes when medicated. Though Robert eventually succumbed to the Void's influence and required execution by Thor, the Sentry proves that mutate origins have upper limits. Push enhancement too far beyond human baseline, and the recipient's mind fractures. Level 4. Mutants. Wolverine, James Howlett's manifestation of bone claws, enhanced healing factor, and animalistic senses during traumatic childhood and origin established him as one of Marvel's most iconic natural-born mutants. Unlike mutates created through experimentation or radiation victims transformed by accidents, Wolverine's powers emerged genetically. His X gene activated during extreme stress, making him representative of Homo superior's evolutionary advantages over baseline humanity. His healing factor allowed him to survive the Weapon X program's adamantium bonding process, demonstrating how mutant powers can interact with human enhancement attempts. The adamantium coating his skeleton wasn't his origin but an augmentation, making Wolverine a mutant enhanced through science rather than created by it. Wolverine's mutant origin carries different implications than other power sources because his abilities are inherited, permanent, and represent genetic destiny rather than accident or choice. He was born with the X gene, making his powers emerge inevitably, once triggered by trauma. This genetic origin created generations of storytelling about whether mutants are humanity's natural successors or evolutionary dead ends, whether they deserve fear or acceptance. Logan's centuries-long lifespan, thanks to his healing factor, demonstrated that some mutant powers fundamentally separate their bearers from humanity. He's outlived everyone he's ever loved, making his mutation both gift-granting immortality and curse, preventing normal human life. The mutant origin questions humanity's future, with Wolverine representing whether enhanced genetics will replace baseline humans through natural evolution, or whether mutants and humans can coexist as separate but equal species. Magneto. Eric Lehnsherr's mutant powers manifested during the trauma of watching his family murdered in concentration camps, with his magnetic abilities erupting from pure survival instinct and rage. Created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, Magneto's origin in X-Men #1 in September 1963 established him as the philosophical counterpoint to Professor X, another mutant whose powers emerged naturally through genetics, but whose trauma led to opposite conclusions about human-mutant relations. His ability to control magnetic fields at will, manipulate metal with thought, and eventually reach planetary-scale magnetic manipulation demonstrated that mutant power levels varied wildly between individuals. Some mutants like Toad possessed minor abilities, while others like Magneto commanded forces that could threaten entire civilizations. Magneto's mutant origin became inseparable from his ideology. Having survived humanity's greatest genocide, he refused to allow mutants to become victims of human fear and hatred. His powers manifested as response to human evil, making his distrust of baseline humanity deeply personal. Unlike mutates who chose enhancement or radiation victims whose powers emerged accidentally, Magneto was born different and persecuted for that difference before his powers even manifested. This established mutants as Marvel's metaphor for persecuted minorities, with Magneto representing militant self-defense against oppression, while Xavier advocated peaceful coexistence. Various storylines explored whether Magneto's magnetic powers affected his brain chemistry, potentially explaining his extremism through biological factors. Chris Claremont's run suggested prolonged magnetic manipulation might alter the brain's electrical patterns, raising questions about whether mutant powers influence personality and ideology. Magneto proves that mutant origins create not just enhanced individuals, but political movements, with genetics determining which side of human-mutant conflict individuals choose. Cyclops. Scott Summers' optic blasts emerged as uncontrollable mutant power, making his origin one of constant burden rather than empowerment. His eyes continuously emit concussive force beams that only ruby quartz can contain, meaning Scott requires specialized visor or glasses to prevent accidentally destroying everything he looks at. Unlike Wolverine's healing factor or Magneto's magnetic control that can be consciously activated, Cyclops' mutation is always active, always dangerous, and always requiring technological assistance. This origin established that not all mutant powers are advantages. Some are disabilities requiring constant management. Scott's inability to control his optic blast stemmed from childhood brain damage suffered during a plane crash that killed his parents. Some stories indicated Scott possessed subconscious mental blocks preventing control, while others suggested the beam's extra-dimensional origin made them fundamentally uncontrollable. This uncertainty made Cyclops' origin tragic. He possessed devastating power, but could never use it freely, never see the world without ruby quartz filter, never make eye contact with loved ones without risking their lives. His leadership of the X-Men despite this disability demonstrated that mutant origins don't determine destiny. Scott's tactical genius and moral center mattered more than his uncontrollable mutation. The character proves that mutant powers can be prisons as much as gifts. Level 5, Symbiotes. Venom. Eddie Brock's bonding with the alien Clintar Symbiote in The Amazing Spider-Man number 300 in May 1988 created one of Marvel's most unique power origins, a parasitic alien entity granting superhuman abilities through permanent biological merger. The symbiote originally bonded with Peter Parker during Secret Wars, learning Spider-Man's powers, memories, and appearance before Peter rejected it violently. The spurned alien found Eddie Brock, a disgraced journalist who blamed Spider-Man for ruining his life, creating perfect symbiosis between human host and alien parasite united by mutual hatred. The symbiote granted Eddie superhuman strength exceeding Spider-Man's, shape-shifting abilities, immunity to spider sense, organic webbing, production, and regenerative healing, demonstrating that alien symbiosis could surpass radiation-based or mutant powers through combination of alien biology and human host. The symbiote origin operates fundamentally differently than other power sources because it's a living entity choosing its host rather than energy, formula, or genetics permanently altering someone. The Clintar brings its own consciousness, desires, and abilities to the merger, making the relationship collaborative or adversarial, depending on host compatibility. Eddie's transformation into Venom worked because both he and the symbiote wanted the same thing: revenge against Spider-Man. However, the symbiote's violent urges and Eddie's moral struggle created constant internal conflict about whether to kill enemies or show restraint. The alien enhanced Eddie's negative emotions while Eddie influenced the symbiote toward occasional heroism, creating a character defined by duality. Unlike mutations that activate once or serums that transform permanently, symbiote bonding remains ongoing negotiation between two consciousnesses sharing one body, with the relationship's health determining whether the resulting being becomes hero, villain, or something between. Carnage. Cletus Cassidy's bonding with the Carnage symbiote, offspring of Venom born during Eddie Brock's prison break, created Marvel's most psychotic symbiote pairing by combining serial killer with alien designed for violence. The Carnage symbiote entered Cassidy's bloodstream through a cut, integrating at a cellular level far deeper than Venom's bonding with Eddie. This deeper merger meant Cletus and Carnage couldn't be separated without killing the host. The result was a being where human and alien consciousnesses blurred completely, with Carnage representing pure sadistic evil amplified by alien power. Where Venom struggled between Eddie's morality and the symbiote's violent urges, Carnage had no internal conflict. Both Cletus and his symbiote craved chaos and murder. The Carnage symbiote demonstrated that offspring symbiotes inherit enhanced abilities beyond their parents. Carnage possessed greater strength than Venom, could create weapons from its biomass, and regenerated from seemingly any damage. Most terrifyingly, it could reproduce itself, spawning additional symbiotes and infecting others. The deeper bonding also granted Carnage abilities Venom lacked, including traveling through electrical systems. This escalation established that symbiote origins have generational power creep. Various storylines explored whether separating Cletus from Carnage was possible, with some arguing the symbiote's evil was learned from Cassidy. However, every attempt to bond Carnage with heroic hosts resulted in the symbiote corrupting them toward violence. Carnage proves that symbiote origins create permanent partnerships where host and alien influence each other, with sufficiently evil hosts corrupting even alien biology. Level 6. Magic, Doctor Strange. Stephen Strange's transformation from arrogant surgeon to sorcerer supreme represents magic-based origin at its purest, a human learning to manipulate mystical energies through study, discipline, and sacrifice. After a car accident destroyed his surgical hands, Strange sought the Ancient Ones seeking healing, and instead found purpose learning mystic arts. Unlike radiation victims or mutants whose powers manifested involuntarily, Strange chose magic deliberately, spending years mastering spells, incantations, and mystical principles. His origin in Strange Tales number 110 in July 1963 established that magical power in Marvel requires dedication to learning rather than accidents or genetics granting abilities randomly. Doctor Strange's magical abilities came from external sources rather than internal transformation. The Eye of Agamotto, Cloak of Levitation, and other mystical artifacts augment his personal power, while his spells invoke extra-dimensional entities like Vishanti or draw energy from cosmic sources. This differs from mutants whose powers are self-contained or radiation victims whose abilities are biologically integrated. Strange must maintain his magical knowledge through constant study and practice, with his powers theoretically learnable by anyone willing to dedicate themselves to mystic arts. However, becoming Sorcerer Supreme required not just knowledge, but worthiness, demonstrated through his willingness to sacrifice personal desires for protecting Earth from mystical threats. His origin proves that magic-based powers are earned rather than granted, requiring transformation of character as much as acquisition of abilities. Unlike symbiotes that can be forcibly bonded, or serums that transform against will, magical power rejects those who seek it for wrong reasons, making magic the most morally selective power origin. Scarlet Witch. Wanda Maximoff's magic-based powers emerged from a complex origin combining mutant genetics, magical enhancement, and chaos magic manipulation. Originally presented as Magneto's daughter with mutant probability-altering abilities, her backstory was later retconned to reveal her powers came from the elder god Chthon, marking her at birth on Wundagore Mountain. This established Wanda as a Nexus being with reality-warping potential unlocked through trauma and Agatha Harkness's magical training. Unlike Doctor Strange, who learned magic through disciplined study, Wanda's magical abilities were inherent but required teaching to control properly. The Scarlet Witch's magic operates differently than traditional sorcery because her chaos magic manipulates probability and reality itself. Her iconic hex bolts can cause unlikely events to occur, making enemies' weapons malfunction or creating protective coincidences. However, House of M and Avengers Disassembled revealed that Wanda's powers could rewrite reality on universal scales when her mental stability fractured. Her infamous "No More Mutants" declaration eliminated mutant powers globally, proving that magical abilities can surpass cosmic-level threats. Unlike Strange's controlled scholarly magic, Wanda's emotional chaos magic makes her simultaneously more powerful and less reliable. Her origin establishes that magical power sources come in different varieties: disciplined, learned magic versus wild, innate magical potential, with both requiring training but operating through fundamentally different principles. Level 7. Divine Cosmic. Captain Marvel. Carol Danvers' transformation into Captain Marvel through Kree Psyche Magnetron explosion represents cosmic-level origin, where alien technology merged Kree and human DNA at the cellular level. Originally a human Air Force officer, Carol was caught in an explosion of Kree technology while saving her Kree ally Mar-Vell. The Psyche Magnetron's energy didn't just grant random powers, it specifically merged her human genetics with Kree warrior biology, granting superhuman strength, flight, energy absorption and projection, and enhanced durability. This cosmic origin transformed Carol from baseline human to hybrid, being operating at power levels previously reserved for aliens or gods. Captain Marvel's cosmic powers escalated when she absorbed a white hole's energy, becoming binary, gaining stellar manipulation abilities. Though she eventually lost full binary powers, she retained enhanced abilities beyond her original Kree-human hybrid state. Her origin demonstrates that cosmic power sources operate through complete biological transformation rather than mere enhancement. Carol's DNA was rewritten at a fundamental level, making her a new species rather than an augmented human. Unlike mutates created through serum or radiation victims whose human biology adapts, Carol became partially alien, with her cellular structure permanently altered. This cosmic origin granted her membership in the Avengers' heavy hitter tier, able to trade blows with Thor and survive attacks that would obliterate baseline humans. Carol proves that cosmic-level origins don't just enhance humans but transform them into beings capable of operating on galactic scales. Ghost Rider. Johnny Blaze's transformation into Ghost Rider through bonding with Zarathos, a spirit of vengeance, created one of Marvel's most complex divine origins. Desperate to save his adoptive father from terminal cancer, Johnny made a deal with Mephisto that resulted in his soul being bound to a supernatural entity that transforms him into a flaming skulled spirit of divine retribution. Unlike symbiotes, which are alien organisms, the spirit of vengeance is a mystical force created for cosmic justice, making Ghost Rider's power source explicitly supernatural. The transformation grants Johnny immunity to physical harm, superhuman strength, the penance stare that forces sinners to experience all pain they've inflicted, and control over hellfire that burns souls rather than flesh. Ghost Rider's divine origin operates on different rules than other power sources because it's explicitly spiritual. Johnny's powers come from a cosmic system of justice and damnation, rather than science or genetics. The spirit of vengeance chooses hosts based on spiritual criteria, seeking individuals who desire justice strongly enough to accept damnation. This makes the origin conditional and reversible. The spirit can leave or be exorcised, returning Johnny to baseline humanity. However, the demonic bonding corrupts the host's soul, with prolonged exposure potentially damning them regardless of heroic actions. Various storylines explored whether the spirit of vengeance was holy entity fighting evil or demon manipulating hosts. The character demonstrates that divine origins create heroes through damnation rather than blessing, with cosmic power requiring spiritual sacrifice that may cost the hero's eternal soul. Moon Knight. Mark Spector's transformation into Moon Knight through resurrection by the Egyptian moon god Khonshu represents the most ambiguous divine origin in Marvel, a power source that may be genuine divine intervention or elaborate delusion created by dissociative identity disorder. Left for death in Egypt after mercenary work went wrong, Mark encountered a statue of Khonshu and either was genuinely resurrected by the god or experienced psychotic break, creating the Moon Knight persona. The mystery of whether Khonshu is real god, granting divine power, or psychological manifestation defines defines Mark's entire character, making his origin simultaneously divine empowerment and mental illness. Moon Knight's powers fluctuate based on lunar phases in some interpretations, with full moons granting enhanced strength, while new moons leave him baseline human with only combat training. Other versions suggest the god grants visions and prophetic dreams, while still others indicate all supernatural elements are delusions, and Mark is simply highly trained vigilante with multiple personalities providing tactical advantages. This ambiguity makes Moon Knight's origin unique. He operates believing he has divine mandate and occasionally displays seemingly supernatural abilities, yet rational explanations exist for every occurrence. Whether Mark is genuinely Khonshu's avatar or mentally ill becomes less important than the fact that his faith enables his heroism. The character proves that divine origins don't require objective truth to create heroes. Belief in higher purpose, whether rooted in actual divinity or psychological need, can transform broken humans into extraordinary protectors. If you enjoyed exploring how ordinary humans gain extraordinary abilities through technology, radiation, mutation, alien symbiosis, magic, and divine intervention, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss our next deep dive into the origins that transform humans into heroes.